Block 1. The Boy Who Came from Kepler-452B. Gabriel's mother had always done everything she could to protect the family's privacy. They lived in Boulder, Colorado, a city known for scientific research, the local observatory, and the calm atmosphere that surrounded the mountains. But above all, it was a place where no one paid too much attention to anyone else's life. And that was exactly what she wanted. Her son didn't need exposure, malicious comments, or curious strangers trying to turn him into a phenomenon. He needed normalcy. He needed safety. But on that cold winter morning, as the white light reflected off the snow flooded the living room, she sensed something different. The silence felt heavier than usual. The heater released a constant low hum, and the smell of freshly brewed coffee mixed with the warm, woody scent she recognized from her childhood. Still, there was a strange feeling in the air, as if the environment were charged with something that didn't belong there. Gabriel sat in the center of the pale carpet, legs crossed, hands resting on his knees, his gaze completely lost beyond the window. He didn't move, didn't blink often, didn't respond when she called. He didn't look sad or scared. He looked connected to something far away. "Gabriel," his mother called, taking a step toward him. He kept staring outside, where the piled snow made the world look pale, almost too silent. The wind outside dragged loose snowflakes, producing a faint sound against the glass, a soft, hypnotic noise. "Son, are you okay?" she asked again, her voice even softer. This time he answered. He didn't turn his face immediately, but his breathing changed. His chest rose more slowly, as if he were trying to access a memory, ancient, deep, and difficult to reach. Then he said, his voice low but firm, "I'm remembering the other place." His mother froze. "What other place, honey?" Gabriel finally looked at her, and when their eyes met, she felt a chill run down her spine. It was like looking at a child and at the same time at something carrying a weight no child should bear. "The place where I lived before here, before I was born in you." Her heart raced. She had heard strange sentences from Gabriel before, but nothing like that. She knelt beside him, placing her hands on the carpet. She felt the soft, cool texture against her fingers, the kind of detail she would usually overlook. "And what was this place called, honey?" she asked, trying not to show her nervousness. Gabriel pronounced the syllables slowly, like someone reciting something sacred. "Kepler-452B." His mother blinked a few times, confused. "Kepler, what?" Gabriel touched the carpet, squeezing the fibers lightly. "Kepler-452B." She didn't recognize the name. She hadn't shown it to him, he hadn't learned it at school, and it wasn't something he would hear in cartoons. Trying to remain calm, she grabbed her phone from the table, unlocked it, and typed the name slowly, afraid of what she would find. The search results appeared in seconds. Kepler-452b. Potentially habitable exoplanet discovered by NASA. She also read that it was larger than Earth, that it orbited an older, brighter star than the Sun, and that, according to some studies, it might have conditions suitable for supporting some kind of life. She looked back at Gabriel. "How do you know that name, son?" "I don't know. I remember." She took a deep breath. "And what was this place like, Gabriel?" Gabriel looked back at the window. The white light reflected from the snow illuminated part of his face, creating soft shadows on his cheek. He blinked slowly, and his voice came out in a mix of longing and precision. The sky there wasn't blue. It was pale, almost white. And when the light hit the mountains, they turned golden. It didn't look like the sunsets here. It was like the light was older, stronger. She felt her arm hair rise. The description matched the brighter star mentioned in the article. "And where did you all live there?" she pressed. Gabriel answered without hesitation. "We didn't live on the surface. The light burned everything. We lived down below." She tilted her head. "Down below?" He explained. "Inside the mountains. The cities were underground. The tunnels went very, very deep. The walls had glowing lines. When we touched them, they lit up. They made a soft crackling sound, like they woke up when we arrived." She imagined the scene: tunnels that breathed light, enormous corridors hidden beneath an unknown planet. And what was the air like there? Gabriel pursed his lips as if pulling the memory by its smell. Heavy. When you breathed, it felt like the air pushed your chest inward. It smelled like wet stone and hot steam. Sometimes it smelled like metal, too. She felt her body go cold. "Did that bother you?" "When the gravity got stronger," he replied. "Walking was hard. Here it's light. There, each step felt like it pulled your body down." The information matched. Kepler-452B could have nearly twice Earth's gravity. "And did you have technology there?" Gabriel nodded. "The doors sensed us. They didn't need handles. You just put your hand in the right place on the wall, and it opened slowly, making a deep sound, like it was breathing. The lights were different, too. They didn't come from the ceiling. They were points that grew when you needed them and shrank when you wanted darkness." His mother was completely immersed. "And what were the people like there?" He took a few seconds. "Tall, bigger eyes, paler skin because we lived without direct light. They were strong because they had to be. The gravity made everything heavier." She noticed the glass tremble slightly when the wind blew harder outside. The low rumble echoed through the room, blending with the weight of her son's story. "And what happened there, Gabriel?" she asked, her voice trembling. He took a deep breath. "I remember the last night. The mountain shook from the inside. The light on the walls flickered. Everyone was scared, and then everything went very dark." She swallowed hard. "And then what?" Gabriel looked at her with unsettling calm. "Then I woke up inside you." The silence that filled the room was deep, almost tangible. She felt her heart beating in her throat. The heater kept humming, but she barely heard it. Something inside her said this was far too real to be mere childish imagination. Gabriel then turned back to the window. "And there are more things I remember, but they only appear when the sky here looks like the one there." His mother held her breath. The world around them seemed to stop. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to stay updated on incredible stories like this. Now, what the boy will reveal in the second block will leave you in shock. Block 2. The Living Tunnels of a Lost World. The mother took Gabriel to his bedroom after that conversation, trying to distract him with toys, books, anything that could pull him away from the intensity of the memory. But nothing worked. The boy remained restless, as if trapped between two worlds. The wooden scent in the room, mixed with the faint detergent smell of the freshly changed bedsheet, brought him no comfort. He walked slowly from one side of the room to the other, as if sensing the floor, testing the weight of his own body. The mother finally asked, "Gabriel, what else do you remember from there?" He stopped walking, looked at the floor, took a deep breath, as if pulling the memory through the smell of the air, and then he began to speak, this time with more detail, as if something inside him had finally unlocked. "I remember the tunnels," he said quietly. "They were alive." His mother frowned, confused. "Alive how? Did they have creatures?" Gabriel shook his head. "Not like that. Alive because they felt us. They knew when someone was passing. The walls changed. The light changed. The sound changed." He traced shapes in the air with his fingers, as if he could still feel the textures. The walls were made of a dark gray stone, but it wasn't stone like here. It was smoother, colder, and it looked like it would feel icy just to look at it. But when you touched it, he squeezed the air with his hand. The stone warmed up, like it was waking up. His mother stepped closer, sensing the air grow heavier. "What do you mean, waking up?" It made a sound, a deep sound, like it came from inside the mountain. First it was just a very soft. Then the light lines started to turn on. He closed his eyes, reliving it. They were thin lines, white and gold. They looked like veins. When you ran your hand over them, the light followed your touch, like it was responding. Sometimes it felt like it was breathing with you. She imagined it, tunnels that responded to touch, walls that pulsed with light, entire corridors illuminating like giant organisms. Something between technology and biology, something that made no sense on Earth. "And when you walked, did it echo?" she asked. Gabriel opened his eyes. It did, but it wasn't a normal echo. The sound traveled too far. Here, when you clap, the echo comes back quickly. There, it took a long time. It was like the sound was being pulled into the earth, as if the mountain was listening. She shivered. The mountain listened. "Yes," he replied, as if it were obvious. It wasn't just rock. It was alive inside. Not like an animal, but alive in a different way. She rubbed her own arm to chase away the goosebumps. "Gabriel, were you afraid of it?" He thought for a moment. "Sometimes, but we trusted it too. The mountain protected us from the star's light. It was warm inside. Sometimes when you touched the floor, you could feel a vibration, like a very, very slow heartbeat. A dump, dump, dump." She froze, picturing the impossible. Then Gabriel continued. "The cities were all connected by those tunnels. Some went down, others sideways. Some were so deep you couldn't see the end. The light grew weaker, and the gravity got heavier the farther down you went." "Heavier?" she repeated. "Yes, like it pulled harder. We only went down in groups. You couldn't go alone. Many parts were dangerous because the air got too hot. Steam came from the bottom of the mountain. The air was thick. It made your chest hurt. We had to breathe slowly." The mother searched for logic, but the more she listened, the less it felt like imagination. She had read about the possibility of high atmospheric pressure on super-Earths, about underground steam, about geological heat. None of this was entirely foreign to science. "And what was life like there?" she asked. He sighed. "Very different from here. We woke up when the mountain's light turned whiter. It changed by itself, didn't need a sun. The tunnels knew when it was time to wake up. The brightness grew gradually like sunrise, but coming from the wall." The specificity stunned her. "And did you study, work, live like we do?" He shook his head. "Not like here. We learned very early about the planet, about how it breathed, about how to feel the vibration of the mountain to know if it was safe to walk. We trained our bodies to be strong, because the weight of the gravity hurts sometimes. Our muscles hurt when we were little." She swallowed. "What were the houses like?" "They were round, carved inside the stone. The doors had no handles. They felt when we arrived, and they only opened if they recognized a person's energy. If a stranger touched it, the stone didn't respond. It stayed cold, and it didn't open." She shivered. Walls and doors that recognized living beings, organic technology. "And how did you communicate?" she asked. He thought. "We talked, but not like here, not so loud. That place had many echoes. Voices traveled far. So we spoke calmly. Sometimes you just had to think strongly and look into someone's eyes, and they understood. Not always, but sometimes." His mother stepped back slightly. "Telepathy?" she asked almost unintentionally. Gabriel shrugged. "Not like in movies. It was different. It was like feeling what the other person wanted to say. Like when you know I'm sad even if I don't say anything. It was subtle, but freakingly plausible in that context." "And the others, what did they look like?" she asked. He answered more softly. "Similar to humans, but different. Their skin was pale because we didn't have sunlight. Their eyes were bigger to see in low light. Their muscles were strong. The gravity made everyone heavy. Their shoulders were broad, and their legs were very firm." She then asked the question she had been avoiding from the beginning. "Gabriel, how did you die there?" He paused, took a deep breath, and answered, "The mountain warned us, but it was too late. The light in the walls turned red. The vibration got very fast. The ground pulled downward, very hard. Everyone ran, but I was small. I couldn't." Tears brimmed in her mother's eyes. "And then?" Gabriel looked at her with unsettling serenity. "Then everything went dark, and I woke up inside you." Silence once again filled the room. The wind was still hitting the windows, but the sound seemed too far away. Her heart was pounding in her throat, and Gabriel breathed slowly, as if still processing the memory. Nothing in his expression looked invented. There was no spark of fantasy, no childish excitement. There was remembrance. Share your thoughts in the comments. Your opinion is important to this discussion. Get ready, because what comes in the third block about this boy's past life is truly astonishing. Block 3. The routine of a world hidden beneath an ancient light. That night, Gabriel had trouble sleeping. His mother noticed it immediately. The way he shifted positions in bed, the soft sound of the blanket sliding across the mattress, the irregular breathing that seemed synchronized with a memory trying to surface. The lamp's glow cast long shadows on the wall, and every time the boy closed his eyes, it looked as though he were being pulled far away from the room. When she finally asked if he wanted to talk, Gabriel only murmured, "I'm still remembering. More things." His tone wasn't frightened. It was heavy, as if he were reliving something that should never have been forgotten. His mother moved closer, pulled a blanket over her legs, and sat beside him. The scent of freshly washed fabric mixed with the cold air leaking through the window, forming a light draft that gave her goosebumps. "What do you remember, son?" Gabriel took a deep breath, his hands tightening around the blanket, feeling its rough texture between his fingers. When he spoke, his voice was slow, loaded with detail. "I remember what it was like to live there, every day." His mother stayed silent, letting him lead. "We woke up when the lights on the walls changed. They turned whiter, like the mountain had its own sunrise. There wasn't sunlight coming through windows because windows didn't exist. Morning came from inside, from the stone." She imagined the white glow spreading through the tunnels, pulsing as the underground world awakened. Gabriel continued, The air in the morning was colder. Steam came out of our mouths when we breathed. The walls cracked softly, like they were stretching after sleeping. And there was always that smell of wet stone mixed with something warm, like vapor coming from deep caves. He lifted his eyes, as if he could see it all perfectly. The city wasn't chaotic. It was organized. Each tunnel had a purpose. Some took us upward toward the cultivation areas, where artificial light made small plants grow, with wide leaves that didn't need sunlight. Other tunnels led to the place where we trained our bodies. The gravity hurt if we didn't take care of ourselves. Some days our legs didn't obey, our chests would tighten. That's why everyone trained, even the children. His mother leaned forward. "What did you train for, Gabriel?" He made a gesture with his hands, as if holding an invisible weight. To walk, to push, to lift our own bodies. The gravity there, he paused, feeling the air, pulled everything down. Every step made the ground vibrate. And when the gravity changed because of the mountain's internal vibrations, it was even harder. That's why we trained every day, so we wouldn't fall, so we wouldn't break anything. His mother almost interrupted, but she felt there was more, much more. And the adults worked keeping the walls alive, he explained. They took care of the mountain's energy. The energy came from inside, from a place so deep that no one could go near it. They said it was too hot, that the air burned. But that's where the vibrations came from, the ones that fed the light to the tunnels. "How did it feed the light?" she asked. "The light didn't come from lamps. It came from the stone itself, from the energy that ran through it. It was like the stone had currents, rivers of light flowing inside it. And when something was wrong, the light changed color." Her heart sped up. Changed how? When everything was okay, the light was white, sometimes golden. But when the mountain wanted to warn us, when it sensed danger, the light turned red. A dark, heavy red, like the tunnel was breathing faster. A shiver ran through her. "And did you know what to do when that happened?" Gabriel nodded. "We stopped everything, stayed alert. Some adults touched the walls to understand where the danger was coming from. They could feel the vibration. They managed to, for a long time, until the day the vibration got too strong." She inhaled sharply. The weight of the memory seemed to grow heavier. "And what were the living spaces like, the homes?" "Round," Gabriel repeated. "The walls were thick and soft to the touch. They had a different texture than the tunnels. It felt safer inside. The temperature was warmer, and the lights were gentle, never intense. When I lay down, I could feel a very soft vibration, like the purr of a large, quiet animal." A pause, a long breath. "And what did you eat?" she asked. "Plants. Lots of leaves, roots, things that grew with little sun. Some were bitter, some tasted a bit sweet. The roots were heavy, hard to bite, but they gave strength, because the body there needed strength. The gravity, it hurts." Her mother held her own arm, as if the air around her had suddenly grown heavy. "And how did you interact? Communicate?" "Not yelling, because the echo was too strong. It hurt the ears. We spoke softly, looked into each other's eyes. Sometimes we didn't have to speak at all. Emotions were strong. It was easy to feel what someone else wanted to say. It wasn't magic, just sensitivity." His expression changed. His voice deepened. "And were there leaders?" his mother asked. Gabriel thought for a few seconds. "Not leaders like here, no one bossing anyone up. There were guides, older people. They understood the mountain better. They taught us how to listen to the sounds inside it, the rhythms. They knew when the gravity would change, when it was time to stay safe, when it was time to rest." Her mother breathed in deeply. They also warn you on the day you died there? His face grew more serious, more adult, as if the memory had physical weight. They warned us, he said, but the vibration came too strong. The mountain was calling, screaming. The light turned red in a way it never had before. The tunnels trembled. The ground pulled downward. Some corridors closed on their own. The doors didn't respond. It was like the planet was trying to protect itself, but we were in the wrong place. Her mother placed her hand over her chest, feeling her heartbeat speed up. And what did you do? Gabriel inhaled deeply. I tried to run. Everyone did. But the gravity got too strong. My legs didn't obey, and the mountain shook so fast, it felt like it was turning inside out. The lights flickered. The sound, he pressed his hands to his ears, like a deep scream coming from inside the stone. She swallowed hard. And then? He opened his eyes. The last thing I felt was the ground pulling, and then I woke up inside you. The silence that followed was almost solid. Her mother didn't know whether to breathe or freeze. The air stuck in her throat. Gabriel, however, seemed strangely calm, as if he had finally lifted a massive weight from within himself. But she knew there was still much more. Much more. Every sentence opened doors to deeper secrets, to memories that shouldn't exist in the mind of a 5-year-old child. And she was about to learn that it wasn't just a memory, it was a warning. If this story is gripping you, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. We bring incredible stories like this 3 times a week. Get ready, because what comes in the 4th block shocked even the most skeptical viewers.
Block 4. NASA, the secret data, and what the boy should never have known. That night marked Gabriel's mother in a deep, unsettling way. She could barely sleep. The house was silent except for the continuous hum of the heater and the occasional sound of wind passing through the trees outside. Shadows moved along the walls as headlights from distant cars crossed the street. But none of that occupied her mind. What consumed her was the question she had been trying to avoid ever since Gabriel began remembering Kepler-452B. Could a 5-year-old child describe a distant planet with that level of precision? It wasn't just the name of the exoplanet. It wasn't just the description of the pale, almost white sky. It wasn't just the golden light reflecting off the mountains, something that made sense if the star was older and brighter than the sun. It was the combination of everything. It was the coherence. And most importantly, it was the details that match real scientific data, data he could not possibly know. When morning came, she walked to the kitchen. The smell of coffee rose instantly, mixing with the scent of fresh bread she had just taken out of the bag. Morning light entered through the window, casting orange reflections on the wooden table. Gabriel appeared a few minutes later, walking slowly. His steps were quiet, almost weightless, but there was a heaviness in his expression, a kind of tiredness that didn't belong to a child. She placed a cup on the table. "Did you sleep well?" He shook his head. "The mountain didn't let me." A chill ran through her chest. "What do you mean, didn't let you?" Gabriel dragged his fingertips across the cold, smooth surface of the table, as if searching for something to anchor himself in this world. "I heard that vibration, like I was still there." He touched his chest. "Right here, like a sound that doesn't stop." She inhaled sharply. She knew she needed to understand more. She couldn't keep avoiding it. So she made an impulsive decision. Research everything she could about Kepler-452B. Gabriel went to play on the living room rug, and she opened her laptop. The soft tapping of the keys filled the room as she typed the planet's name, accompanied by the boy's distant breathing. Kepler-452b. Habitable zone. Super-Earth. possibly higher gravity, potential intense geological activity, stronger light due to an aging star. Every line she read echoed Gabriel's words. Then something caught her eye. One NASA article spoke of internal thermal variations, possible heating cycles coming from the interior of the planet. Another mentioned the hypothesis of intense geothermal energy that could make underground tunnels more habitable than the surface. A third stated that if life existed, it would likely need to live below the surface to avoid excessive radiation from the star. Her breath hitched. She clicked another link, a technical PDF. It discussed acoustic resonances, vibrational waves inside caves on planets with stronger gravity. The theory suggested deep vibrations could travel for kilometers under the surface, affecting entire underground ecosystems. And then she found this. In extreme cases, resonance could temporarily increase local gravity. Her eyes widened. It was exactly what Gabriel had described. Her hand began to tremble. How could a 5-year-old child know this? Just then, the wind struck the window hard. A deep groan echoed through the house as the wooden frame contracted. The glass rattled. Gabriel immediately lifted his head. "Did you feel that?" he asked. She nodded. "That reminds me of there," Gabriel said softly. "But there it was stronger. The vibration didn't come from the wind. It came from below." She closed the laptop. She felt she was crossing a boundary, diving too deep into something she wasn't meant to fully understand. But Gabriel wasn't finished. He stood up from the rug and walked to the window. The white morning light illuminated his face, revealing faint shadows under his eyes. He said, "I remember a hallway, the main hallway of the city." She approached him slowly. "What was there?" Gabriel inhaled deeply. It was huge. The ceiling was so high you could see glowing formations, like crystals. But they weren't normal crystals. They changed color depending on the mountain's vibration. When the resonance was calm, they were bluish. When things were normal, they were golden. When the mountain got restless, he swallowed. They turned red, red like blood. A cold wave crawled up her neck. "And was it safe there?" she asked. "Most of the time, but when the crystals turned red, nobody stayed close. It meant the mountain was about to call." "Call?" she repeated, confused. Gabriel looked straight into her eyes. "Call us to leave, or call us to the bottom." Her whole body chilled. The bottom was dangerous? He nodded. "Very. The gravity was too strong. The light barely reached it. The stone was hot, hot like fire. And there was steam. A lot of steam. Breathing there was hard. It felt like the air was heavy inside the chest." A tense silence settled between them. Then she asked, "Did you ever go there?" Gabriel hesitated a few seconds before answering. "Once. Because I was chosen." She blinked. "Chosen for what?" Gabriel lowered his gaze. A shadow from the window crossed his face, dividing it into light and dark bands. He took a deep breath as if about to reveal something he was never meant to say. "To feel the mountain, to hear it for real. Some of us were born with that sensitivity. We could hear when it was sad. We could hear when it was afraid. And," he pressed his hand to his chest, "we could feel when it was going to call." She touched his arm. "And what happened that day?" she whispered. Gabriel closed his eyes. The silence before his answer felt painfully long. "That day, it called, and I was too close." He opened his eyes slowly. Fear lived there, but so did a strange acceptance. The mountain pulled everything down. The lights turned red, and the sound, he covered his ears, was like a huge roar coming from inside it. Her stomach tightened. Gabriel took a deep breath and finished. That's how I died there, and that's how I woke up inside you. His mother covered her mouth. Tears came instantly. She couldn't stop them. Nothing in his voice sounded invented. Nothing sounded childish. And for the first time, she realized she wasn't just dealing with impossible memories. She was dealing with something that could challenge everything she understood about life, death, consciousness, and about the universe itself. Share your thoughts in the comments. Your opinion is important for this discussion. Get ready because what's coming in the final block will make you rethink everything you know about life.
Block 5. The Final Echo of an Ancient World. The late afternoon brought a different kind of silence to the house. It wasn't the usual Sunday quiet, nor the peaceful lull that comes before evening settles in. It was a deeper silence, almost thick, as if it had weight, as if it were waiting for something to happen. Gabriel's mother noticed it immediately. The shadows in the room had grown longer, and the orange light coming through the window created an atmosphere that felt suspended in time. The boy was sitting at the edge of the bed, his feet swinging gently above the floor. He didn't look anxious, but he didn't look calm either. There was a strange expression on his face, a mixture of focus and distance, as if he were listening to something she couldn't hear. "Son," the mother called softly, "you said earlier there was something you still hadn't told me." Gabriel lifted his eyes. The sunset glow reflected in them, creating a soft shine that made him look older than he was. He took a deep breath, and when he spoke, his voice carried a weight far too heavy for such a small body. "Yes, there's a part I could never remember clearly, but now it's coming back." The mother sat beside him, feeling the mattress dip under her weight. The clean scent of the blanket rose between them, mixed with the faint fragrance of children's shampoo. "Tell me," she urged, holding his hand. "I'm here." Gabriel closed his eyes for a few seconds, as if trying to assemble pieces of a puzzle from two different lives. "On the day everything happened, the day the mountain was shaking, there was something strange in the air. It wasn't just fear. It wasn't just the red lights on the walls. It was something else." "What else?" "A voice. It wasn't a person. It wasn't the mountain. It was bigger." She frowned, surprised. "A bigger voice?" He nodded. "It was like it came from outside, but also from inside, like the whole planet was speaking to me. It didn't speak words. It spoke vibrations. The vibrations turned into meaning. Here." He touched his chest. "It felt like a warning, but not of fear, a warning of change." She drew a breath. "What did it say?" He hesitated for a moment, as if reliving everything. "It said, 'It's not over. It only changed.'" A shiver ran through her entire body. "Changed how?" Gabriel turned slowly toward the window, where the sky was darkening and the first stars began to appear behind a bluish haze. "I think," he began, "that Kepler-452B didn't die. It changed shape. It changed inside.
The planet was tired, getting weak, but it didn't want to end. It wanted to survive, and to survive, it had to change. The mother said nothing. She couldn't stop thinking about the NASA articles she'd read, about aging exoplanets, dying stars, fading atmospheres, surfaces cracking from within. The connection was impossible to ignore. "So you believe the planet evolved?" she asked. Gabriel slowly shook his head. "Not just evolved, it transformed. Its energy moved somewhere else. It's like it closed its eyes to rest. Maybe one day it will wake again, but not the way it was." His words didn't sound like a child's imagination. They sounded technical, philosophical, and scientific at once. "And why do you remember that here?" his mother asked quietly. Gabriel turned to her and held her hand. "Because the voice said I would remember, that it was important, that I would need to tell someone." Her throat tightened. "Tell who?" "Whoever can listen, and whoever can understand." Again, silence filled the room, dense, heavy, as if waiting for the next sentence. Gabriel stood up and walked to the window. The street lamp outside lit part of his face, drawing sharp lines of shadow that made him look even more unusual. He pressed his palm against the cold glass. "Sometimes, when I look at the sky here, it feels like it wants to tell me something. Not like the sky there. There, the sky was brighter, alive. There was something inside the light. Here, it's different. But even so, sometimes I feel something similar." His mother approached slowly. "Do you miss it there?" "Yes, but not everything. I miss the light in the walls, the way it took care of us. I miss the vibration when everything was calm. It felt like a big, warm embrace. I miss hearing the mountain sleep and breathe." Her throat tightened. "And are you afraid of these memories?" "No," he said with devastating calm. "I'm afraid of forgetting." A tear slid silently down her cheek. "Why?" "Because if I forget, no one will know how it was. No one will know it existed. No one will know the mountain tried to warn us, that it tried to protect us. It didn't want to hurt anyone. It was just tired." The boy turned his face back toward the sky, where his mother placed his hand on his shoulder. "Do you think there's still a connection between you and that place?" He didn't answer right away. He closed his eyes, breathed deeply. His chest rose and fell slowly, as if he were listening to something far away. When he opened his eyes, he said, "The connection never went away." She froze. "How do you know?" "Because sometimes when the wind here hits just like the wind there, I feel the same sound, the same vibration. It's faint, but it's there. Kepler is still alive in some way, sleeping, waiting." He turned fully toward her. "And I think someday I will remember everything. It's not time yet, but it will be." She didn't say a word. There was nothing left to say. The story was too big to fit inside any simple explanation. The boy laid his head on her lap, breathing slowly and peacefully, as if the memory had finally found a safe place to rest. And for the first time since all of this began, the mother realized something profound. Maybe Gabriel didn't come from the past. Maybe he came from the future, or from a place where time doesn't work like it does here. Maybe he was a link, a bridge between worlds. She didn't know. No one knew. But one thing was certain. Nothing about his story was random. Nothing was shallow. Nothing was merely imagination. It was an impossible memory, and it was far too real to ignore. If this story touched you, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to follow more incredible stories like this.